It was called the Red Summer of 1919, named for the blood that ran through America's cities during months of racial unrest. African American soldiers had returned home from the Great War, World War I, to a
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing? Well, we are back again with another topic of videos that we need to look at. Well, today we are going to discuss about the massacre in Elaine, Arkansas in America. You know what I want you to understand, that you see, the slavery in America is not like the black people didn't fight for their right or they didn't fight to stop it. But you know, when you are dealing with evil or when you are dealing with the devil himself, it's always difficult. And sometimes you are playing with your own life, because you know at the end of the day, the devil will want to kill you or will try to kill you. And that is, but upon all that, the black people, they try their best to fight for their right in America. And this is one of the stories that we are going to look at today. That is a story that happens in 1919 after the First World War. And they call it the Elaine, Arkansas massacre. So we're going to watch the clip, and then we discuss the rest after watching the clip. But I want to ask you to share this video, subscribe, and like the video so we can be able to create more content like this for you guys. We need to bring the history, that what happens to black people around America, so that you know that it was not just easy to just take slavery, you know, but the black people try their best to fight the racism. But always, you know, they are few in numbers in every state they are. So when there is something, they easily get defeated, or the white people will come from different states to support the other white. See, that is the way the devils work. And as an angel human being, sometimes you are not there to kill people, you are just there to fight for your right. And that is sometimes is also different than the one who is just there to kill. It doesn't matter who. And that we're going to watch and look at the clip, and then we see how we go further.
It was called the Red Summer of 1919, named for the blood that ran through America's cities during months of racial unrest. African American soldiers had returned home from the Great War, World War I, to a country still teeming with discrimination. And in their quest for civil rights, tensions between blacks and whites reached a tipping point. Deadly race riots broke out in over 24 cities, but one rural town, Elaine, Arkansas, would become the epicenter for the bloodshed. The violence there, lynch mobs, torture, indiscriminate murder, was so horrific it would go down in history not as a race riot, but as the Elaine Massacre. This is history. Dark history. During World War I, more than 350,000 African American soldiers enlisted to serve. But while they fought for democracy abroad, their own country, America, was still not willing to see them as equal.
White supremacy was very mainstream at this time in the United States. Basically, a lot of African Americans were seeking to obtain their full rights and equality in the United States. And violence was often used by mobs of whites.
Tensions reached a boiling point in the summer of 1919. Race riots broke out in dozens of cities across the country. But in the rural South, something even more menacing was taking form. There, slavery existed in all but name. in a system called sharecropping. Farmers provided landowners with labor for a share of crops produced. But the system was rigged. Sharecroppers were often kept in perpetual debt.
One black sharecropper raised $500 worth of cotton, and his landlord told him, "Yeah, but you used $697 worth of supplies, so you owe me money."
Everyone who has any power at this point is working to make sure they keep African American laborers tied to the land.
For roughly 50 years, the system went unchecked. In the fall of 1918, a black man from Arkansas had had enough. Robert Hill had decided to form a union to represent sharecroppers. It was a dangerous decision, and one that would set off a chain of events involving mass murder, torture, and a landmark Supreme Court ruling. But first, he would need to organize.
In his message, Hill was pretty simple and direct. Why is it that we cannot have fair payment for the honest and hard work we do?
Despite the inherent risk involved with challenging whites, World War I veterans and other black sharecroppers became card-carrying members of the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America.
He believed that by paying dues, these members could have the services of lawyers and sue plantation owners for cotton that had been stolen from them and false numbers that had been placed in the plantation stores' books.
On the night of September 30th, 1919, union members gathered in Elaine to discuss their legal plan.
This is in Phillips County. It's basically just a crossroads at this time, a road, a few houses, a railroad siding. There's no streetlights. There's also a one-room wooden church, and that's where the union met. Expecting that they might have trouble, the union posted a guard of about 6 men. They had shotguns and rifles. The meeting's taking place, and while they're having this discussion, a car rolls up the road.
2 white men were in the car.
By one account, one of the white men in the car said, "You all get away from there." And shortly thereafter, a shot was fired.
Though it remains unclear who fired first, a barrage of gunfire broke out. One of the white men was killed almost instantly. The rumor of a black uprising spread in a matter of hours. The idea of a sharecropper rebellion conveniently played into the hands of landowners who did not want their sharecropping practices scrutinized. They did all they could, as quickly as they could, to sound alarms that black farmers were out for white blood.
The story gets magnified that the town is under attack, that blacks are killing people in the streets, that there is a revolution afoot.
The sharecroppers quickly formed self-defense groups, expecting repercussions over the death of a white man. But they could not have predicted just how severe the response would be. The following morning, under the watchful eye of Sheriff Frank Kitchens and his deputies, posses of white men were sent to find, detain, and kill the offenders.
When you have an out-of-control mob just being told there's a Negro insurrection going on, that mob's being very indiscriminate in its violence.
Well, if you look at the story, you can see that the blacks didn't do anything. They just go to organize themselves to talk about how the work that they are doing, the type of profit they get from it, or how they treat them. And 2 white guys came around to tell them to stop that meeting. And then it ended up shooting each other, and 1 white guy died. And then the white people just announced that the black people are killing people. So now every black they see on the road, they also organize themselves, just start killing people on the road, black people, just like that. And you can see how fear these white people are when they come across with black people. Always. That's why they always afraid. But if you are doing bad, a bad person always have to be afraid. You know you are doing bad. One day it will come back to haunt you. And that is the problem between the whites in America. Because they know they are doing bad things, so they were always afraid that one day it will hunt them down. And that is what happened. And then they start killing black people, just like that. So let's continue watching.
You see houses being attacked, black-owned homes being ransacked.
The black school was burnt. Notable families were killed.
Black women and children have to go literally hide out in the woods because many of these people are indiscriminately shooting at African American women and their children.
Black veterans and other African Americans took up arms in self-defense.
This no doubt just feeds into the mob fervor. The fact that, oh, they're daring to shoot back at us. This must really be an insurrection.
One historian has identified more than 20 different killing sites where African Americans were being killed.
There are stories that mob members were taking souvenirs, such as ears or fingers from the bodies of fallen African Americans.
One of the leading black families of the county, they weren't even in the town. They had just received a brother back from the French front. They are pulled from a train, put in the back of a car, and they are stabbed, shot, and their mutilated bodies are left on the side of the road.
Within 2 days, 500 U.S. troops were sent to quell the supposed black uprising.
They don't find any blacks killing or shooting down the streets. In fact, Colonel Jinks reports that the city is filled with hundreds and hundreds of white men with guns. Many of the individuals who were hiding in the thickets were former soldiers who had just gotten back from the war. And when they see the army troops come, they rush out, believing that the army troops are there to assist them. The army believes that these people are rushing toward them to attack, and they're cut down by machine gun fire.
Although the exact number will never be known, a recent estimate suggests 237 black men, women, and children were killed. There was an immediate demand for justice, but not for the black lives lost. 5 white men were also killed in the fighting. Hundreds of African Americans were rounded up and put in jail, and when the jail was full, they detained the rest in a schoolhouse.
While they are detained, there is torture going on.
The goal? To elicit false confessions of a black uprising.
They whipped the men, whipped them for long periods of time. They stuffed formaldehyde up their noses, and they stripped them naked and shocked them with electrical charges. They did this until they confessed to the conspiracy.
Robert Hill escaped to Kansas, but his peers back in Arkansas were not as lucky. 122 indictments were issued, and trials quickly started.
The men were brought into the court in chains. They weren't allowed to consult with their defense attorney. The defense attorney rarely interjected, and then the all-white juries started delivering guilty verdicts. In one case, the guilty verdicts came back in 2 minutes.
It's also important to point out that there were mobs of people outside who were demanding black blood. Governor Bruff maintained that at some point these people would be killed, but they would have to have been killed justly.
The governor lived up to his word. When among the 87 black citizens charged with crimes, 12 were sentenced to death by electric chair. Despite the system being blatantly rigged against them, the convicted men had one unlikely beacon of hope: the American justice system. The trials of the Elaine 12 had been highly publicized. The NAACP took notice and stepped in with legal help for the 12. For 4 years, the team faced a series of legal setbacks and advances until in 1923, the case made its way to the Supreme Court in what is now known as Moore versus Dempsey. There, the defense argued that the original trials had been mob-dominated and the black prisoners had been denied their constitutional rights. In a landmark decision, the court agreed.
The good that comes out of this is that the NAACP sees for the first time that they can win in the Supreme Court, that things don't always fall along the color lines.
The 12, subjected to torture, injustice, and litigation travesty, were at long last exonerated and released in January 1925. They might have escaped with their lives, but there was nothing that could reverse the pain and devastation felt by the black community in Phillips County, and no way to unsee the ungodly truth that American men, alongside the American government, were complicit in a massacre of American citizens on American soil.
We as a nation have grown and we continue to grow. We don't need to pretend as if we've always had everything figured out, but if we are to do justice to who we are as Americans, we've got to own all of it.
Well, thanks for watching. You all see what happened. You see how the black people were murdered in the state just because they were trying to organize themselves for the money they get according to the work they do. And that led to all this violence. They didn't do anything. They were just organizing themselves to say, okay, the money or the payment that we are getting is not good to the work we are doing. And this is how everything just led to the violence and the killing and the massacre. Sometimes I ask myself, how do you deal with evil when you are in front of the evil? How do you deal with it? It's not easy to just keep quiet. They were in front of the devil or the evil themselves, so it's not easy. Anything you will say, they will use against you and kill you. In that time, don't forget, they are the most time that America was Christian country. Believe me, all these white people that time, they were going to churches. Churches will be full in Sundays. But yet, that was the evil time that black people really suffer in the hand of white people in America. Now you can see what kind of God are you serving when you have to be so wicked. Well, thanks for watching, brothers and sisters. I don't want to make the thing too long, so I just want to show this clip to you so that you know how the history in America went. But it's not like the black people, they were really just giving up and just listening to everything. No, they fought. The black people tried their best to show how intelligent they are also. Anytime they try to build themselves up, you see the white people will come and destroy all the effort that they did. Believe me, these people, they suffer in the hands of the white in America. May God bless all the blacks who fought for their rights in America. So, thank you for watching. Share this clip, give like, and let the channel grow that we can give more content like this to you. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.